This answer somehow enraged the Crimson King. It seems the 5 demon lords had done him wrong in the past and was living peacefully without guilt ever since. It is revealed that during Aang's final moments 60 years ago, the 8-finned demon had planted its consciousness in his body. The Crimson King chose Aang because he was deemed as humanity's strongest. What he did not expect, however, was after reincarnating, the body would turn out frail and useless. He is so disappointed with the outcome he could choke Aang himself, as if his last shred of consciousness was wasted in such a pathetic situation. What he needed to do now was wait until his body would fully awaken. This could only be achieved if Aang understood how to utilize the finned memories. The finned memories, as the Crimson King explained, were the main ingredients to a demon's evolution. The power levels of a demon is determined by the number of fins it had. The more fins, the higher its power level. This unique ability of demons is why they stood ahead against other races. Apparently, Aang is now the same as them, except that he only needs to devour demons with higher levels than him to evolve. By doing this, he would eventually understand and obtain the finned memories and evolve, a gift bestowed upon him by the Crimson King. The one-finned demon was eager to support the Crimson King's mission. He begged and swore his loyalty to help him awaken. But before he could finish his plea, the Crimson King had already shattered his body to pieces. The king did not consider this one-finned demon's life worthy of assisting him. What it could only offer was its life for Aang to awaken the first fin. He absorbed the one-finned demon's essence into Aang's body, combining the demon gene into the human's. This was the Crimson King's first step to fully awaken Aang's body. As the mixture of genes processed, the demon's form began to crumble, revealing Aang inside. The husk of the Crimson King tears apart as Aang falls down to the ground. The completed demon's gene had entered his core, creating a new combination of demonic power. The Crimson King returns to his slumber once more, into the darkness, until he reawakens. Beyond the darkness, memories of Aang's fallen teammates visited him. His final moments from his previous life have haunted him once more as he recounts his friends die in front of him. But these memories began to turn into a nightmare as the faces of his teammates become terrifying figures that question his existence. Aang awakens abruptly and discovers himself on a bed, wrapped in a blanket. He attempts to confirm his sanity and realizes it was all a dream. Soon, the drapes covering his ward opened, revealing his eagerly awaiting teammates. Tomo suddenly lunged in front of him, intrigued about his new look. Aang leaned back from Tomo as sheer confusion and awkwardness overwhelmed him. He also wondered how the three were somehow fine after being taken to the cave by the one-finned demon. Suddenly, a familiar voice spoke behind the curtain. Curious about how Aang had a memory of his abduction, the curtains pulled back fully, and the 3 squadron leaders are revealed. They were eager to know what Aang has to say about what happened in the cave. Chapter 10. Aang sat on his bed surrounded by the 3 squadron leaders. He's surprised by their visit, most especially Ji Yao Tang himself. Gel explained that they were brought back from the cave by Tang Tang. Yao Tang quietly admonishes her for calling him the funny moniker in front of the cadets, but Gel sarcastically complies. The cadets noticed this but tried not to react. Joel added that they found them unconscious outside the cave. The one-finned demon was nowhere in sight at the time, so they were glad to bring them back safely. Gel hands Aang a mirror while explaining that his teammates all awakened earlier but did not seem to have any recollection of the events that transpired in the cave. The only person that was in a coma and had significant changes was him. Aang was surprised when he saw his reflection in the mirror. Parts of his fringes have now turned white. This explains what Tomo meant when she talked about his new look. This confuses Aang even more, as the only thing he could remember in the cave was the time he went unconscious after losing the battle with the one-finned demon. He was torn from keeping it all to himself or confessing everything, including the fact he got reincarnated. But the latter would only make things more complicated, not to mention it wouldn't be even believable. With this, Aang decides to proceed with caution and try to explain the situation as his current persona. He asserted that he only regained consciousness for a short time at the cave, then fell unconscious again. This was how he knew they were brought into the cave. The next time he awoke was at the hospital. Yao Tang was still doubtful with Aang. He remembered the sight at the cave with the blood splattered in the wall. Yet, he did not say a word. Joel chimed in and acknowledged Aang's name being the same as mankind's greatest warrior. He points out his mediocre stats but was impressed at how calm he was during the fight against the monsters. It made him curious if he had prior experience battling with demons. Aang immediately raised his voice to deny it and claims that he was interested in fighting. He reasoned that he had gathered and analyzed all the weaknesses of every demon, thus explaining his calmness during the fight. Jel was impressed upon hearing Aang's meticulousness and suggested that Yao Tang cultivate a splendid warrior like him. Aang cuts in as he remembers they were in the middle of the warrior examination when they were kidnapped. He nervously asks about the results of the exam. Tomo gleefully tells him they have passed. His squad gathered near him. Because of the fateful incident, Yao Tang had formally made them a team. But sadly, they were behind other teams. Every team needs to obtain points in order to pass. They currently have 0 points. Their team could not mobilize because Aang was admitted for 3 days. Aang freaks out upon hearing he had been unconscious for 3 days. Aang is released from the hospital and it was the first day the team is finally out together after the exams. They gathered at the city square and were greeted by their squadron leader Ji Yao Tang. He congratulates them for officially becoming warriors and for being fortunate for returning safely after being abducted by a one-finned demon. The 4 of them is now officially a team and is under Yao Tang's tutelage. This makes them the 9th team under Yao Tang's care. Aang raises a question upon hearing Yao Tang say he hopes they stand out amongst the other teams. It seems being a warrior in this era has become more complicated. From his experience, as soon as cadets became warriors, they'd be sent out immediately into the battlefield. Only by killing demons was how their identity and strength was earned. Aang's ignorance about the small team point ranking makes Snow wonder. This may be because he was a newbie. Apparently, they are currently the lowest in the ranking. The small team point ranking, as Yao Tang explains, is a point system of ranking the teams under the squadron leaders. With this, it can stimulate a healthy competition and improve the teams. By completing missions of different levels, they can obtain points and climb the ranks. And every month, 2 of the squadron leaders' top teams will compete with the other squadron leaders' teams and win prizes. The team that gets last place in the ranking gets punished, which usually means they get demoted to cleaning crew. Aang notices this month's last place team cleaning the streets, realizing why it has been so clean. That team will have to wait until next month to be replaced by that month's last placer. Since the demons keep evolving, the warriors can't relax. This is why the point system is put in place in order to make a breakthrough with competition. After explaining the rules, Yao Tang appoints Situ Lu as the team's leader for having the highest points in the test. She stood proud and firm with her new designation, with her inner thoughts exploding in glee and arrogance. Snow and Tomo instantly agrees, but Aang bitterly disagrees quietly in his mind. Yao Tang wraps up the conversation and told them to take a look at the point system and decide what mission they should take. He dismisses them, but before leaving, reminds the team to be accustomed to their nanoing battlesuits. Lu immediately turns around and proceeds to the mission board to see the available missions. They need to catch up fast since they were already behind. Before she got far, Tomo stops her and proposes they take a picture to commemorate their official team. So they grouped together and posed for the camera. Aang was somehow pleased with the outcome. Somewhere in the distance, the 3 squadron leaders were also grouped up in a conversation. They have been discussing the events in the cave, with Yao Tang having seen the corpse of the exploded demon. Evidence of an unknown demon's blood splattered in the scene leads Yao Tang to suspect Aang. Having a sensitive nose, he seems to always smell an unknown yet familiar scent from him. Jel cuts Yao Tang's train of thought once again as she climbs behind him. She dismisses his suspicions and reminds him to be thankful they got back safe. Telling him that Aang's team had potential, so he needs to take care of them so they won't lose to her team. Joel suggests to keep an eye on him anyway, and inform them if he does find anything suspicious. At the city center's mission board, Aang and the team took a closer look at the available missions. 3 A rank missions were up for grabs, each with 10 points if completed. Aang was excited to earn the points, but Snow and Tomo immediately cautioned him. Apparently,